Today's video is sponsored by Better Wild. Today we're going to be installing something on the tractor that's going to save me all that fiddle f***ing around you just watched me do. All right, so what this is a hydraulic skid steer quick attach plate that goes on the front of your tractor. Now, forgive me, this might be a little elementary for many of you that have been around tractors, but if you haven't before, what typically comes on most tractors is a skid steer quick attach that is a manual pin locking system that's spring loaded. So I don't know if you can see, but down here, there is a pin that comes out and locks on your bucket or pallet forks or whatever. But every time you want to switch attachments, you've got to get out, release both arms to let the old attachment off, put the new one on, and then lock it down into place, get back on your tractor and be on your way. Just like you saw me do in the beginning of this video. It's not a big deal if you're using your bucket 90% of the time or using your pallet forks 90% of the time, but I am switching attachments constantly between the bucket, the pallet forks. We've got that dump hopper underneath our barrel screener for the firewood processor that we're constantly putting on and off. And so something that I have wanted for a very long time that has up until this point been pretty much cornered just by the skid loader market is a hydraulic skid steer quick attach, which basically is going to allow us to open and close those locking pins from inside the cab. Now, this was sent to us from our good friends over at GoodWorks Tractor. I will leave a link in the description below. It is important to know that these are custom fit to every tractor because the geometry between the spacing between pins, all of this stuff is different from loader to loader. And so when you go and order one of these, they need to know exactly which tractor you have and which loader model you have, because there are some tractors that you can get a couple different loader models. So this is an LS MT357. And the loader model on this is LL4106. So this should be made specifically to fit this loader, and it should be quite an easy swap. All we have to do is take out 4 pins, 1, 2, 3, 4, and replace them with these 4 pins, and then hook up all of our hydraulic hosing. We are going to run this to our third function, and I already know what some of you guys are gonna say. We're gonna talk about that later. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and wheel this thing into place and use the pallet jack to get our first 2 pins lined up and in. All right, so now we've got the hydraulic plate all on there, and I can tell this is the first one they've done for an LS tractor. One, when they originally emailed me about all of this, they had me confirm some dimensions to make sure that this was gonna fit this loader. We went through and did all that. One thing that they didn't do though is make these pins greasable. And I'm assuming that's because on most other tractors, you might have a grease zerk like right in here that you actually grease the bushing instead of the pin. But on LS tractors, they have it so that you actually grease the pin. You can see the Zerk is on the pin itself, and then what it does is it shoots, if I look inside here, should be able to see a little pinhole right there. See that little hole? That's where your grease would then come out through the pin and into that bushing, whereas on other tractors, instead of having your grease Zerk here, they put it on the bushing itself. So that's just one thing. We'll have to get some greasable pins from there, because there's obviously a lot of rotation and everything in this pin every time you go to dump or curl your bucket. If you don't grease that, you're going to wear out those bushings. So got to go ahead and get that done. For right now though, it'll work. We'll go ahead and get our hydraulic hoses on and get that hooked up to the third function. It does ship with these little caps on here, and yep, not going to be able to get those with my hand. There we go. There we go. Both on. Let's go ahead and give this thing a rip. Okay, a little bit of leaking out of here, but otherwise it works. I'm assuming these just need snugged up. Oh yeah, those are real loose. I'd imagine they leave them loose like that to give you some flexibility for the install, and that's just my bad for not checking to make sure it was tight before I got everything hooked up. So that should be working now. Let me try it again and make sure we're not leaking anymore. Looks like we've got a visitor at the door. Sadie wants to come in and check out what's going on with the tractor. You know, a few weeks ago, we noticed Sadie start scratching a little bit more than usual, and I didn't really think much of it. I thought, well, we'll just see if it runs its course. Well, after about a week of it not going away, we decided to make an appointment with the vet to go get her checked out. We weren't sure if it was just dry skin from starting to run the wood stoves, you know, as we get into winter, or maybe she picked up some fleas or something like that. You know, we treat her with flea and tick medication, but you never know. So we made an appointment, got her in, got her looked at, and the vet confirmed that she didn't have any fleas, thank God, because that would have been a whole nother fiasco. And he said that her skin didn't look, you know, abnormally dry, but he did notice some irritation from all the scratching that she was doing. And he deduced basically that it was just allergies, which I didn't know dogs got allergies. But anyway, one vet visit and a prescription for some allergy medication, and $200 later, Sadie is now no longer itching. But I wish that I had known at the time about today's sponsor, Better Wild. Better Wild makes vet-designed soft chew supplements that help treat your dog's allergies and overall health. And as you can tell, as soon as I open these up, Sadie here wants one. Let's go ahead and see. You want one? Here. There you go. How was that? Now you're not going to leave me alone, huh? Better Wild helps to re-strengthen your dog's gut with their proprietary blend of wolf probiotics, because after all, your dog does have 99% wolf DNA. Now, allergy medication, on the other hand, is very expensive and can be difficult to get your dog to eat. I know right now, firsthand, we're trying to hide this stuff in Sadie's food, and a lot of times she will eat around this stuff. As you guys just saw, we have no problem giving her these soft chew supplements. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Better Wild is an alternative to a visit to the vet, but what I will say is if I had known about this ahead of time, her symptoms of scratching and itching may have never showed up. Hence, we wouldn't have needed a visit to the vet because she wouldn't have had any symptoms. Go to betterwild.com/HometownAcres or scan the QR code for an exclusive Better Wild offer. Use code HometownAcres at checkout. It stacks on top of already discounted pricing when you subscribe. And this deal only works with my unique link down in the description below, so make sure you go check it out. Thanks to Better Wild for sponsoring today's video. All right, before we were so rudely interrupted by Sadie knocking at the door, I think we were getting ready to pressure test those connections again. Yeah, I don't see us leaking anymore. All right, let's go ahead and see if we can hook up to these pallet forks without having to get in and out of the cab. I'm gonna raise it up here a little bit just because I don't remember which button goes right and which one goes left. Okay, so that one locks it in. We should be locked in. So if I tip these all the way down now. Yep. All locked in. Good to go. This is gonna be sweet. All right, now this is gonna be the first real world, real use case that I'm gonna have for this thing, which is gonna be emptying this dump hopper that I keep underneath the barrel screener. This is the dump hopper that catches all of our scrap off of the firewood processor and the barrel screener. And just being able to come in there, drop the forks, unlock it, drop the forks, come in here and pick up the dump hopper. Once we get a hold of it, back it out here, and then just lock onto it right here from the seat of the cab. That's awesome. I don't have to get out and manually lock it on. And then just as easy as pulling back in here, unlocking it, set it back down, and back away. Now if we wanted to, pull right back into our pallet forks and pick those up, but I got something else I want to show you guys. Now I already know what you guys are thinking. If you're using your third function to run the hydraulic quick attach, how are you going to run a grapple if you're already using that port? Well, I've got a solution for that as well. I'll show you here in a second. So if you're going to be running an attachment on the front of your tractor that has its own separate hydraulic system, it really doesn't change anything, because whether you have this hydraulic skid steer quick attach or not, you would still have to get out and lock your loader pins down in, and you'd have to hook up your hydraulic hoses to your third function. The only difference here is that we're going to be disconnecting our skid steer quick attach. I've got a set of bungee cord right here, and then we're just going to do what we normally would, which is hook up our hydraulics to the grapple. That's it. The only thing I forgot to mention is when you go to pick it up, before you disconnect your hydraulic quick attach, you want to make sure you lock it in first, and then it's hydraulically locked in. And then if you want to take this off, again, you got to get out, disconnect your attachments hydraulic hoses, hook your hydraulic skid steer quick attach back up to be able to unlock it. So whether you have this or not, whenever you're hooking something like this up, you've got to get off the tractor anyway. So, you know, you'll be able to stay inside the tractor for things that don't have hydraulics, like pallet forks, a bucket, or a dump hopper like we just showed you. But if you have something with hydraulics, you're still going to have to get out to hook up your hoses, which you'd have to do anyway. Now, this is my first time doing this, so I'm sure there's going to be some room for improvement on this setup. Like, where do I want to tie these things down to? Actually, it might be better to bungee these to the actual quick attach itself. This is the kind of stuff that neighbor Doug is really good at, is figuring out good cable management or hydraulic hose management to keep these things protected. Yeah, I think for the time being, we're going to take this bungee off of the actual loader itself over here, and we're going to bungee it to this frame. Okay, there, that leaves something to be desired. We'll figure something out better than that, but for right now, that's going to do what we need it to do for demonstration purposes. Then all you would do is come over here like you normally would and hook up your grapple. And we should be up in business, locked in, hydraulic hoses hooked up. So even with using the third function to power your hydraulic skid steer quick attach, you can still use it to power an attachment like this. Now, what would be even better is if you had a diverter valve on here, so you actually had 4 ports, then you wouldn't ever have to disconnect your skid steer quick attach. but this system works just fine, and it's going to save a decent chunk of change not installing a diverter valve on here. Check to make sure the grapple's working, and then we got some logs to move while the ground is somewhat dry right now. Yep, grapple is up and running. So about a year ago, my neighbor was clearing quite a few trees on his property, mostly all maple, and he asked if I wanted these logs for free, and I went over and looked at them, and I said, yeah, those look all pretty nice logs. So I brought him over here with the dump trailer. There's probably 5 or 6 dump trailer loads over here, and I didn't have a good spot to put them at the time, so I just tucked them up along the tree line here, but I've got some room for them over by the processor now. Normally, when it comes to handling logs like this, I use the excavator with the bucket and the thumb. But because we've got such a long travel distance from here all the way over to the processor, the tractor's got a little bit faster ground speed, so we're gonna throw the grapple on and carry all these logs over to the Estimate Evo over there. I think you guys get the picture. We've got probably about half of that pile moved over here with the grapple. And yes, we can still use the third function for attachments like this, even with this hydraulic skid steer quick attach. I'll tell you what, guys, this tractor right now, I've got it set up to be probably one of the most convenient pieces of equipment. When you look at just a standard tractor, all of the things that we have added to this now with the hydraulic skid steer quick attach, we've got the hydraulic top and tilt kit on the back so that we can, from inside the cab, change the pitch of any 3-point attachments like a land plane or a box blade. We can change the side pitch. We've got a side link that we can, again, we can rotate something forward and back. We can also rotate it side to side. There's very little I would change about this tractor at this point. The only things I probably still would like to do to it is to swap out these halogen bulbs for LEDs. Other than that, man, I'll tell you what, this thing is as close to a skid loader as you're gonna get in tractor form. But yeah, guys, if never getting out of your tractor to change front loader attachments again sounds good to you, I will leave a link down in the description to GoodWorks tractor, to this specific hydraulic skid steer quick attach, as well as just a general link to their website. They sell a ton of other tractor implements and things like that. They work with a bunch of different brands. If you've got a tractor, they probably have something on their website that would interest you. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, give me a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.